Try not to be too obnoxious about that. It's more fun to be obnoxious, but anyway. So, 7 o'clock, July 1st, thank you all for coming to the Londonderry Utilities Committee meeting. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and we'll start by reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So, once again, thank you all. I have not heard from John or Ann if they will be joining us tonight, so in the meantime, I'm going to appoint John and Ray to vote if we have anything to vote on before they do show up. Is that thunder we hear in the background?
Yes.
Yeah, I was just checking the radar.
And second item on the agenda is public comment. We always open with public comment, but I don't think we've had public comment in a few months, so we'll move on to the next item. But we have fulfilled our obligation. Welcome, Sean Mulholland, our
Thank
new
you, sir.
town manager, Londonderry town manager. So I thought it was important, Kirsten and I thought it was important to get you here to meet the committee to meet you, let you know what we're all about, and I think we provide a valuable service to the town, and certainly we want you to know who we are, what we're capable of, so that if you see a need somewhere, you can reach out to us and put us to work.
We
So-
definitely have some needs there.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And sorry, Ray, John's here, so.
John, you had to show up.
I'm sorry.
So, kind of a free-form, back-and-forth discussion. Sean, I don't know if you'd like to give us a little bit about your vision of where you're at, but I wanted to go down through the committee at some point in time. Everybody can introduce themselves to you and what their interests are. I'd like to talk a little bit about how we're structured, how we try to get things done on the committee, and then just, if there's any general questions at the end that come up, we can just have a back-and-forth.
So I like to operate with guidance, and what I mean by that is operating from the town's master plan, and I understand it's under revision right now, as well as hopefully potentially a strategic plan. I'm going to be presenting that to the council on the 21st of July to consider the development of that. That helps the administration, the town manager, as well as the department heads to focus on where the governing body of the town wants us to focus on and achieve specific objectives that are in there. So right now, basically, I'm operating off what I think those objectives are, just based on feedback that I'm getting from folks and the public comment and what I've been learning from the videos and the meetings in the past. Clearly, the water issue in the community, the contamination of water, seems to be a high priority item. And obviously, there's been a lot of focus on that with the town. My goal is to work with you and, of course, the town council to refine that plan even more and consolidate that plan town-wide, and then develop action items to move that forward and get that ball moving forward, get projects ready on the shelf to apply for grant opportunities, assuming that's the direction that I am asked to go in. And it looks like that is, but again, I'll get further information from you, guidance from you, as well as the town council as we continue to develop that. And then, of course, transportation, which is not within your wheelhouse per se, but that's another important issue for the community as well. And municipal aggregation, of course, is hanging out there too. A lot of communities have added that to their repertoire of opportunities for their communities, and I know that's under consideration here as well. So I look forward to working with you to develop those items and providing the logistical support that you need to do the work that you're doing, and ultimately get the guidance from the council as to where they want me to go.
Sure. Great. So with that, I'd like to have everybody introduce themselves. Joy, you want to start with yourself? We'll just go right down through everybody individually, just
Sure.
who you are and what your interests are and why you're here.
My name is Joy Fragamuller. I am part of the Utilities Committee and the subcommittee, the Energy, and also the Sewer and Solid Waste Committee. My background is in environmental science slash engineering slash microbiology, and I'm actually a teacher. So I teach at Timberlane High School. And so I'm here on Utilities Committee to help move our town forward for the future, to ensure we have a good, healthy environment for our kids. My kids have said they want to stay in Londonderry, so I want to make sure that it's a good place for them to be in. So, yeah.
Paul Ramsey. My retirement job is Chief Financial Officer of the Palace Theater in Manchester, New Hampshire. Prior to that, I retired from Eversource / Public Service Company, New Hampshire. I retired as their Vice President of Operations. I worked there for 42 years. I was involved in the first deregulation project in the state back in the 90s and so forth and so on. So I was asked to join the Utility Committee to try to provide some electrical perspective, primarily in aggregation and a whole host of things, power lines, you name it. And I've been trying to do that, hopefully successfully.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm John Ferrera. We met before.
Yes.
I hope you took our advice. There is a sale this week at the liquor store, 4th of July. So, my forte is engineering, computer design, software design, clinical trials. That's kind of a diversion, but I was asked to join this committee because of my probably 30-year involvement with the town and all sorts of different things. I am currently the secretary. I'm on the water subcommittee. I think we're all involved somewhere or other with each other on all the committees, but I'm impressed with the knowledge level by the people here. I'm probably in the minority, but thank you.
I'm Martha Smith. We've also met before. In my former life, before I retired, I was an attorney, and I worked in private practice in New Hampshire, and then I moved into a corporation as their general counsel for an energy services company. I am on the water subcommittee here, and this was my first foray into town service. I started on the Energy Task Force, which predated this committee that Deb Paul started. And then when this committee formed, I stepped forward and was able to get onto this committee. I'm also on the town Master Plan Steering Committee. And I'm thoroughly enjoying my work with the town. I'm interested in the water. Most of all, that's my focus on this committee. And that's about it for me.
Mike, why don't you jump? No, I'll do it at the end.
Okay. I'm Mike Speltz. I'm a member of the Conservation Commission as well as this committee. And I think that there's a lot of opportunity to mix the goals of the Conservation Commission and the goals of this committee, those are the areas I try to focus on. I have 8 grandkids, and so as a result, I am concerned about what kind of world we are leaving them with. With any kind of luck, most of them will make it to the year 2100, when I think things are going to get pretty ugly, and I'm trying to do my best to prepare for that. I had 21 years in the Army, 10, 11 years at Raytheon doing engineering development, project management, and then 10, 11 years at the Forest Society doing land conservation work. So that's me.
Jeff McGraw, we met. I'm on the utility committee. I'm also on the airport commission for the town. I'm work on the water commission. We're trying to put together the build-out plan for the for town water. We've talked about that a little bit. I had the delightful surprise of learning about PFAS after my wife and I bought a home here in Londonderry. Actually was volunteered for this committee before I even knew about PFAS, so I've been drinking from a fire hose for a year.
No pun intended.
Yeah, no pun intended.
So we've been active for 2 years.
2 years, so 2 years been drinking from a fire hose. Been learning a lot, been working with a lot of great people, obviously. And I think we haven't put any shovels in the ground on the water projects, but we're getting really good progress and we're building relationships. We've got now, I think, good relationships with Pennachuck, or at least this committee is building relationships with Pennachuck. We're getting some work out of them, and we've got a good part of the engineering part of the study of how to build out the town, the water system. There's a ton of work that needs to be done. There's all the political concerns on who gets billed first, and then the specifics of where the shovels go first and how we finance. There's a million things that need to happen. My background is purely commercial. This is the first time I've ever been involved in a government service organization, so I have a real bias towards action, so I want things to go a lot quicker. And I'm learning very quickly that, there's a process and you gotta work with the process, which is fine. But I think we're getting good progress. I think we're learning a lot. I'm learning a ton from Ray and Martha and everybody in the room. John, and everybody in the water committee have been educating me. But I think we're doing pretty good work, and I think we have a ton of work to do. The back of the envelope thinking on the water build out, and we sort of talked about this, that's 20 years perhaps to get done in an efficient, business-like, well done, not cobbled together manner. So a lot of good work needs to be done. So, but I think we got a good start.
Absolutely.
So.
Hi, I'm Ray. I'm just Ray.
Free Gary Drive.
Free Gary Drive, yeah. Yeah. So, I think, as.
Even I know that.
You know where I live, too. So, but, all kidding aside, I think we have some great people here. We have some great people that work in town here. And, I think we're making great progress. Once again, unlike a few other people, I want things to move a lot faster, and we understand some things cannot move faster. But I've been sort of involved with this going back to, let's say, 2013. Okay, and it just in discussions with people in town and so forth, and but now we're at a point where I think we have the ability to make some really good progress, because we have a lot of good people with a lot of good experience, and we know we also need to keep the conversation with others in the state of New Hampshire and in the federal government, which is going to be happening, as we understand, moving forward. All of that is great, and I'm encouraged. And thank you for coming here and to assist us. Thank you.
Where we going?
We go way back.
So I'll just say, Sean, that this committee does great work. Everybody on here cares. They really invest a lot of time and spend a lot of their resources on their own to help the town. And I know that I greatly appreciate everybody on this committee and what they do. And I think we bring a lot of different resources to the committee. And I think that everybody on here really puts the best effort forward for the town and wants the best effort for the town. And they want what's best for Londonderry. And I appreciate everybody on here. I think they do a great job. So I think you're going to find that everybody on here works very hard and they want the best. So I think you'll be very happy with everybody here.
Great, thanks. John?
John Mann. I'm active here with utilities. I'm also on Heritage, Beautify Londonderry, and the Master Plan Steering Committee. So when I say I'm retired, I'm only kidding myself. My primary interest in utilities, frankly, I'm an escapee from an old committee that's been disbanded, Solid Waste, which dealt with a lot of environmental issues in our town. And fortunately, I'm now on our Sewer and Solid Waste Committee, so I'm learning a lot about sewers from my good friend Ray. And solid waste is something, as my wife says, that's near and dear to my heart. So that's my application here, and I find this meeting to be one of the best that I attend. So.
Great. So I'm Lynn Wiles, Sean, we've met, just, a little bit of background, just retired project manager, product manager, engineer, did a lot of little different things during the course of my career. Long-term resident of Londonderry. Kind of like Mike, I want my grandkids to be, we're gonna be grandparents for the first time toward the end of this year, and I want them to have a viable place to live, and to grow old and to have their families as well. I think just listening to people talk here, there's just a wealth of knowledge here. It's just, it blows me away when I think about it every time we get together, just what everybody on this committee brings to the table. And I think everybody's committed. I think we have good dialogue. We don't always agree on everything, but we have good dialogue. We want to have a good partnership with you. We certainly do today with Kirsten. And, we want to work for the town. We want to work for you. We want you to work for us, for that matter. I mean, it's a two-way street, right? So that's what we're hoping for, is just to have that partnership, a strong, constructive partnership going forward. And, we're looking forward to working with you. So welcome to town.
Thank you.
We're missing one member,
We are.
right?
Yep.
Mr. Chairman.
And so we are missing Ann Fenn. I
Yep.
don't know if you've met
I
Ann
have.
or not.
Yep.
So Ann's a retired EPA
Yep.
person and very involved in the environment and water. I wish she was here, she could give you a little bit more background on her level of expertise, but very passionate about what she does as well. And I think it's an excellent cross-section of Londonderry, and I think, we're here, we want to get things done.
I suspect you're going to be seeing me at your meetings because, one, I need to be educated on the situation, and I'm learning quickly about all of them. But there's a lot of things in all these areas, from solid waste to sewer to clearly water and energy, that's floating around. You're well aware of that. And I'm not sure what the level of information share is, but we've got to talk about that and make sure we all have an understanding of what that needs to be. The best way for me to do it is to actually go to your meetings. So that's what I'm going to plan to do. I think more than any other committees, obviously I go to the town council meetings, but other than that, I think this is where I'm going to be investing a lot of my time, is this committee. Because of the work that we need to do. And some of these things are coming up relatively quickly that have to be discussed, and I really could use the input. And again, I don't know how that has worked in the past, but I have an idea of how it's going to work in the future. And there's a lot of discussions to be had.
Great, great.
Trust us. Just ask, you will receive.
Well, that tends to work out when you get the minds in the room that have different viewpoints and can work on an issue and problem solve it. That I find to be very helpful, especially with the level of expertise it sounds like we have here that not every community has. I see that as an asset to us. So.
Kirsten, could you pull up the org chart we have for the subcommittees?
Sure.
Is that something you could do? We talk about the subcommittees, but we haven't really talked about who's doing what. And so there's 10 members on this board, not including Ron. And we're organized into 4 different subcommittees. Each committee member is on 2 subcommittees, is the way we had the original structure. So we have an energy subcommittee dealing with aggregation, is kind of one of our primary things. We're doing some other activities that you'll hear about later on in this meeting. We have the water subcommittee. Obviously, you're very familiar with the water issues we have here in town, and I think everybody on the water subcommittee is very involved in those issues. Sewer and solid waste, and then cable TV and internet. Cable TV and internet were part of the original charter for this committee. Pretty much it's fallen on John's shoulders for doing everything along those lines. We don't have a lot going on right now. Our cable contract is,
Another year, I've reviewed it. Little things, I've been trying to keep up with the cable industry, but I just found out, for example, there's a phone company that now has 300 satellites orbiting the Earth.
Yep.
And there's hundreds more, so it's been a challenge to keep up, but, I'm sorry.
So, no, so, the cable TV and internet, I don't wanna say we struggle because that's kind of the wrong word, but we don't have
Not much.
we don't do a lot in that area. Our primary focus has been sewer, solid waste, water, and energy.
We're on an internet or a cable contract now for a while, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
When you say you mean the franchise agreement you're
Yes.
talking about?
Yeah.
yeah, so.
When, do you know when that is up for renewal or?
2 years, John?
It's another year and a half. I have to take a look at it.
I always thought it was
I mean,
like,
I wrote the original one back in the
2020,
eighties, so I tried.
Look at active in a yearish.
yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, because the timeline is somewhat elongated because of the public hearing piece and all that
Yeah.
required,
Has to be done.
Yeah.
And originally, that contract was what funded that studio, but now those monies go into the general fund and the town council takes care of budgeting that, so.
So this is kind of how we're structured. Each subcommittee has a chairman who convenes the meetings. We don't necessarily meet every month. We meet when it's really appropriate. And we go through and we notice those. We do minutes for the subcommittee meetings as well, or agendas and minutes. So try to add a little formality to those discussions. But early on, I thought it was very apparent we wouldn't get much done here if we just tried to do everything in a committee of 10. And that was why we split up, so we could have a little bit more focus. So we asked the subcommittees to do the legwork, and then we bring, if there's any decisions that have to be voted on, we bring those to this full committee where we would do the voting.
Yeah, on the sewer and solid waste, there's, some discussions about renegotiating the curbside pickup collection contract. We're gonna wanna talk about those pieces of that in
Yep.
some degree of detail, and what the best way forward on that is. I know that you've been with the same contractor for a very long time,
Yep.
and you gotta discuss whether or not that's wise to do that, or whether we, look at a more competitive situation. Because I've been in these negotiations before, and they become very competitive.
Oh, yeah.
And so we just have to decide where that's going to go. And then, your sewer fund's in pretty healthy condition, which is really good news. Water is gonna be, I think, the biggest effort where I'm gonna be spending an enormous amount of time. Kirsten and I are already starting to work on that. We've already got some pieces worked out in framework. I need to meet with the committee and start to build that out. And she's gonna be the primary person that's building all that, but I need to be there at those meetings. There's some real key decision points that are gonna have to be made, looking at recommendations so that we can bring those to the council to get authorization to do certain things and refine that plan and have a solid town-wide plan to deal with that.
Sure.
And there's a lot of components to it, and we're building out the components to make some recommendations to the committee and go from
Yeah,
there.
and as well, one of my concerns as chairman of this committee is making sure we have a clear path of discussion, number one, but a clear path on who's making what decisions. And I don't want to spin our wheels. I don't want to do things that spin other people's wheels. I think we work with your office, we work with the town council, and, this is a big problem. And let's do it the right way. Let's not have a lot of talk. Let's
Yeah,
get some
let's-
action going,
And,
right?
and not only, like you mentioned, not only who's making the decisions, but who's doing what, who's doing the work and who's responsible for what.
Yep.
Because there's, we've got a lot of talented people,
Yep.
but, who's gonna pick up the ball and do this piece?
Yep,
So.
exactly. And I think that's huge, is getting that established as soon
Sure.
as we can.
Yeah, and framing out the strategy.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah.
And one of the key things is, where's the money coming from?
Sure.
Particularly when we're talking about water, and who's going to move forward to take action to potentially get that?
And then that's the difficult part, isn't it?
Well, we've, Martha and I have had a discussion with DES, and with at least one individual, not everyone. And there is opportunity at this time for the town to move forward on some of that, but you gotta have your plan. And you gotta have it written, you gotta submit it, and then potentially something could happen. No guarantee. But I think we should look at that and take action.
Yeah.
We will be.
So, with that, I just wanted to open up any general Q&A anybody might have for Sean.
One of the challenges that we've had, not only on this committee, but certainly on the Conservation Commission and probably a lot of other places in town, is the challenges of grant writing.
Yes.
Kirsten has done incredible work. She has to be doing it on her own time. I don't tell her any secrets here, but you can't do it all. And, I mean, I do the grants for the Conservation Commission, but it's just to me, it's a high leverage investment.
Yes.
If we can come up with some good, grant writing support. And I don't, I don't mind stuff, I'm not asking to get out of the business or anything, but there's other areas like this one where there's probably gonna be a huge amount of grant writing, and we can find a way to support that, because it just pays enormous dividends in the long run.
Yeah, the ROI is significant. I had a full-time grant writer. It cost me this much, and I brought in $60 million with that one grant writer.
There you go.
And that's, $100,000 a year for that person's salary and benefits, and brought in $60 million that the city has in front of it. It's not just a matter of writing the grants, it's having the skill to do it, as you know, and the finesse and what they're looking for, having the relationships with the persons who review the grant, our legislative delegation, congressional delegation, as well as actively searching for grant money out there. We paid for our municipal aggregation with a $60,000 grant from CDFA. So they provided the funding for that, the legal expenses to write our aggregation plan, and that's how we did that. And there was no such grant for that. We had to go and advocate for that. We need money for this innovative idea. And they're like, that makes sense to us. And they provided us with $60,000. So again, the ROI is significant for this much expense and the value that's produced. We need to have projects on the shelf ready to go for grant opportunities. We are nowhere near that. And that's the situation we need to get ourselves to. And that's part of the overall plan that'll have to be discussed. It's always controversial adding headcount, right? Nobody wants to do that. But hopefully if we can show the value of that, which is pretty easy to do, that we'll see what happens with that, I suppose, right? A lot of these things will be difficult to do. They'll be controversial to do. They'll be different. They'll be new. And we'll see, if they make it through the process or not. But the numbers are pretty clear about those communities that have made that sort of investment, and they get the grants every time. The city of Lebanon gets a congressionally directed spending grant every year, a couple $1 million every year to do it's focusing on sidewalks. But whatever the priorities are in your community, every community is a little bit different in what they want to do. But there's money out there. We took all the PFAS money because nobody else applied for it, for the landfill in Lebanon, $585,000 to do a pilot project. And we're negotiating with Senator Hassan for another pilot project for a pyrolysis project to destroy waste and PFAS that goes along with it. And we're looking at all the funding to be able to do that. But again, you've got to be in a position to have the right people with the projects on the shelf and those who have the know-how to get those grants. Sitting back and then filling out a grant application, sort of winging it and hoping that you get it, doesn't work. There's a lot more competition, that's savvy competition to get these grants. And if we want to be at the top of that game, we've got to be a player in that realm.
One of the things that I think Martha and I learned just briefly is that DES is perfectly willing to help the town of Londonderry. If we put something forward, bring it to them, have them take a look at it and say, hey, that sounds pretty good, but you really need to tweak this here. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a huge thing moving forward. You can keep it pretty simple, but you've got to be specific with what you want. And then you've got to be careful about whether you're going to have something in the game. Is the town of Londonderry going to have something in the game? Are they serious about this or not? Because a lot of the other cities and towns are willing to commit a certain amount to it. And there are other various sources of grants or loans that perhaps the town should look at. And that discussion with DES, you've already had that, but is so critical.
A little bit of experience in that grant thing, so I fully concur with what you're saying. Not only that, a lot of people don't realize the maintenance of them. So I was the finance manager for the State Soccer Association.
Right.
And my board fought me on going after grants. But within 2 years' time, I got $230,000 worth of grants. And one of them was for the first blind soccer festival in the city of Manchester. And who's a blind soccer, they gave us a lot of money, the first one in the United States. Now, the reporting on that,
Right.
the financial reporting, the updates and stuff like that, I'll speak for myself. When it comes to grants, if you need somebody in this committee to do something specifically, And you're right, there's a lot of grants out there that we need to expose. And I've talked to Duran about how do we get all the rest of the towns together to put together a massive bill. This is how much it's going to cost the state of New Hampshire to fix this water problem. That kind of advertising, I think, is very powerful. It prepares us for grants. It gets PR out there. If our governor can stand up and say, hey, we've been polluted to the tune of $6 billion, that gets attention. So, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, that's the other thing with the grants is a lot of them have administrative expenses. So that's, I mean, I pay for that position with grant money.
Yep.
So, I mean,
That's the norm.
I think it cost us $7,000 last year in the city for her position.
Yeah.
Because the rest was all reimbursed by community development block grants and the various other grants because they have administrative costs located in there. But you're right, administering those grants, complying with all the rules, and they all have different rules and regulations that you have to be able to do. Submitting for reimbursement, that's all part of that job. It's really a key role.
Yep.
And again, it's something we really need to consider here as we move forward, if we really want to be a player in this realm.
Is that a person or a team?
I have a person that does it, but a whole team is involved. I mean, you have the finance folks, but that's my lead person who submits these grant applications, knows all the timelines when they have to be in, gets them lined up, has projects on the shelf, goes to departments and say, oh, by the way, there's grant funding for this. I just got the NOFO on it. This is something you might be interested in. If it is, I'll work with your folks to develop a grant application. We'll get it in on a timely fashion. Or advocating, as you indicated, Ray, about just going to DES, we had a major well project that doesn't fit necessarily in a square box, and we're looking for 50% reimbursement on that. And that we've already had that discussion with them, and there's different ways to get things done, and that's one of the ways in which you do that. Not just by reading what's out there, as in terms of the grant notifications, but also negotiating those and advocating for the value that they produce. It's a complex job, has a lot of pieces to it, but it really pays off significant dividends
How
when you
much
do
does
it.
that per person cost? About?
I think she makes, in the 90s, and then with her benefits and all that, you're probably talking something south of $150,000.
That's not bad.
So, and again, I spent $7,000 in property taxpayer dollars to pay that person because the rest was offset by grants. And then you get $60 million worth of grants that the city has been awarded, and others are in the pipeline every year for more.
Nice, nice.
So it's easy to show the ROI on that, you know?
Yep.
One
Go ahead.
puzzling technical thing, you've talked about, or at least been quoted on talking about a strategic plan,
Yes.
and that's different than our master plan,
Yes.
is that right? Could you describe that?
So the city of Lebanon has a master plan, and it deals with land use, transportation, economic development, those sorts of issues, and open space. And then you have what's called a strategic plan, and I don't think any other municipality in New Hampshire has them. There are other municipalities across the country that do. Germantown, Pennsylvania, Germantown, Tennessee, Union City, California, San Diego County, and there's several others. Fort Collins, Colorado is another good example of that. A strategic plan focuses on operational issues, and it also implements the many components of the master plan. There's direct relationship. And if you go to the City of Lebanon's strategic plan, you'll see the references to the where they complement the master plan. It has 10 functional areas. Theirs does. Not to say that ours has to. They're all a little bit different. If you look at the packet that's coming out for the council agenda on the 21st, when it comes out on the night of the 14th, you will see the references and the links to those communities in there. You'll see all kinds of slightly different plans, and Lebanon's a conglomeration of those, and then it has its own pieces of it. So that plan, for instance, public safety is one. You'll have police, you'll have fire issues in there, and you have code enforcement issues in there. And some of those have NFPA standards in there. We want to achieve those objectives. And what we're looking at is the next year and the 2 follow-on years, whereas a master plan is generally a 10-year plan or even in some cases a 30-year plan. So we're focusing on what we're actually going to get done in that next year. So within that, you have action items. You have the objective, then you have action items to achieve that. And then there's key performance indicators to show what measurement it is to see if we have achieved those items. And then you have status reports in those for each year. And then you have the look ahead for the next 2 years for those items. Like, for instance, it may be in there that we have a water plan, develop a water plan for the town. And maybe it takes a year to do that. And the follow-on plan is implement these other components, implement the advocacy plan, implement the funding plan. So those are all action items in there, and we measure success to see if we've actually achieved those or not. And that's reported out every year. The city of Lebanon does it every year. Fort Collins, Colorado does it every 2 years. And what it's supposed to do is it's the governing body, the town council, telling the administration, go do these things. We want you to accomplish these specific things, and that's where we put our energy into doing that. It requires every board in town of the committee to provide input, and there are general stakeholder groups, and then there's the general public to provide feedback. That's why it takes a year to do this, to take all that feedback, put it into categories, put it up on a website, and then have the council review it and approve it and say, again, go do these things. And then again, there are things that are on a wish list. There are things we're actually going to do. I'm a stickler about that. I don't like a plan that sits on a shelf that looks nice. I want something that we're actually going to go out and do and get done at the end of the day and show success for the community. So that's what that does. And then below that, you'd have business plans in your departments. City of Lebanon have a business plan, the fire department, the police department, DPW is working on theirs right now. So once we get a strategic plan, we should have business plans, at least in our larger departments, that have their focus of where they're going. And again, it's all publicly available that you can see. So that's how it works.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you, John. So, with that, we'll move on. Feel free to stick around, Sean. Feel free to go on home and have dinner if you want. I would like to go home and have dinner, but I can't. So, moving on to administrative board work. Minutes. John, any feedback on minutes, or
I got yours, and I sent out draft number 2. Thank you.
are we in a position to approve draft number 2?
We are. I would like to make a motion to approve draft number 2.
Second.
Yeah, okay, we have a motion by Martha to approve the minutes, second by Jeff. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Approved unanimously. Thank you, John, for putting those together. I know it's a
Kristen, want me to
labor of
send
love.
you,
I'll post the second draft as the
Second draft
approved
is
one.
final?
Yep,
Thank
that's
you.
fine. I don't need another one. Thank you.
Discussions with staff. Kirsten, you got a couple things to talk about
I got a
tonight.
laundry list today. It's exciting. You guys are going to get sick of hearing my voice again.
For Sean there, are you?
Not at all. Sean knows all this already. All right. So leading off with something that is not technically, the construction is not within the town's purview, but Town of Dairy Water is going to be working on constructing a water main down and pump station along Old Dairy Road to help connect the basically water corridor in southern New Hampshire. They're still finalizing the plan on the pump station and that component. But what it means for Londonderry is that water line extension is going to run down a section, obviously, of Old Dairy and Londonderry where there is no water available right now. And so one of the things we're going to be doing is we're going to be reaching out to the houses in those neighborhoods, the streets off there, Allison, Cardinal, Calla, Iris, Partridge, Mallard, and parts of Old Dairy, to figure out, what does their water testing look like. We have the state results. We want to see if they have any other private results. So we're going to be reaching out for data because that's a new area of town of water main that's being constructed that we'd like to gather some more information to know the magnitude of the problem up there. So that's something, that's just an update that this is going on as this moves forward. I'll definitely bring you out more, but that letter should be going out next week.
That's Manchester Waterworks too, right? And
Yes.
that-
Yes.
That project is
Well-
not
It'll
finished.
connect to where the Manchester franchise ends and the Dairy franchise begins, so they'll actually be connected.
Yeah, but it's not going to be managed by Pennachuck. That project is
No.
not a
No.
Pennachuck
Dairy.
project.
That's all part of the other corridor, Derry, Salem, all that thing, right?
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yep.
By the way, Chris, that is huge.
Yeah, but
that's a
that would
huge-
be supplying from the town of Derry. Derry would be supplying the water to that.
Well, it connects Manchester Waterworks, which goes to the intersection of Old Dairy and Auburn Road. That's Manchester Waterworks. And it would connect it down to the existing pipeline on Old Dairy. Because there's an existing pipeline that goes a little ways into Londonderry and then turns onto Clover on Old Dairy. But it's going to connect that corner of Old Dairy and Clover It's going to run from there to the Manchester Waterworks connection at the corner of Auburn Road and Old Derry.
So from that, you're saying that Manchester Water is going to be supplying what we consider Woodmont east of 93 with municipal water. Is that correct?
This is not Woodmont, no. This is not precisely Woodmont, no.
No, it's the section of Old Dairy Road that is not presently being served. They will now be served by Dairy Water.
Yep.
So that's who will build those residents along Old Dairy Road.
Do I
Till it reaches-
understand where Old
Dairy
Derry
Corp.
Road is?
Dairy Corp gets their water
you know
from
where
Manchester,
Auburn
but
Road
they
is?
have their own water company.
Auburn Road.
Yeah.
by-
Oh,
by
okay,
the-
okay,
Old
okay.
Dairy.
Okay.
All right, you there? Yeah, yes. You
Okay.
were further south, Ray. This is
I'm at
further
the
north.
wrong end of town. I'm
You were
sorry.
you were at the south end. This is at the north end. Okay, good. So we're good. Awesome. All right, so that's that item, and obviously we'll keep you updated as that moves along. High Range Road still looking good. They're finishing up a couple smaller jobs, but the good news is that when they start in, they're starting with 2 full crews to start. For those of you who haven't seen, Casey and I have calls every other week scheduled for the duration of the project, Casey Harding. So we're in pretty constant communication, and Ryan has been excellent. Ryan from American Excavating has been excellent at communicating with John. So we got the system down, we got the disbursement system down, we are ready to roll. And if you go to the corner of Parmenter and High Range, you'll see the sign is up. So that's just a fun visual. And you guys will get the regular updates as they come from Casey through me as well.
Do we have any feel yet as to participation rates for people on High Range Road and Parmenter Road?
Not 100% yet. When we have that information, when Casey kind of finalizes it, I'll definitely get that to you, but we're not quite there yet.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be fascinating information.
It's going to be really interesting. I agree with that. Particularly because, the sides are different.
Yep.
So, probably the most significant news is the major movement we've had on the Tinkham Garage Superfund site. So that, if you did not see the news flash that went out or the email that I sent, we have the interim remedy, the proposed plan for the interim remedy. It's not the finalized plan until it goes through the whole public comment period. The public comment period will run from July 11th through August 12th. The EPA is managing that. At the day before that starts, we're holding a public meeting right in here, run by the EPA, July 10th. And that is simply to answer questions. The plan has been mailed out to the people in the affected area already, so they've gotten the full physical copy of the plan sent to them. It should have arrived already. And then halfway through the public comment period, there will be a public hearing in this room on July 29th. It's a Tuesday. That is for you to comment, and those comments will be taken into account when Cheryl finalizes the plan by the end of September. If you haven't seen, the plan is the proposed plan, the one that is favored by the EPA, is construction of water line extensions. As you probably already know, there's a water line down Gilcrest.
I have some exhibits on that on the thing,
Yeah.
if you want to throw it over.
Sure, I can pull that over, yeah.
Talk to the
Oh, that's right,
slides.
you did pull some stuff out of there, didn't you?
Yeah.
So, it's right here. You can look on this, the proposed water lines. The pink lines are the proposed extensions. The blue are existing water lines. And so they're looking to extend down all of Ross and Tocino and Albany and Boston. That is not already covered. It's important to note that this is an interim remedy for drinking water that they're proposing. This does not end the EPA's involvement with the Tinkham site. They're still looking for ways to basically remediate the contamination. But this is designed to bring clean drinking water as soon as possible to these roughly 89 homes. Yeah.
So I did read your email. Thank you very much for that,
Welcome.
by the way. And they quoted a figure that in there, I think it was something like $6.8 million.
$6.8 million in 2025 construction costs.
And when, who's paying that? That was unclear from that.
The town of Londonderry, the EPA is responsible for recovering and for working with the potentially responsible party to fund this project. So it is the EPA is going to work with the Cannon Group to fund the project. I think we discussed the possibility of hydrants,
That-
water sources. That would be the town's responsibility if we put in hydrants. But as for the actual cost of the project, that is the EPA is going to work to fund it with the potentially responsible party.
And has
Have
there,
they, go ahead.
has there been any contact there that they are gonna come up with that money?
The EPA has been speaking to the Cannon Group. Yes, absolutely. There's been regular communication between them.
Okay,
As it is a Superfund site, we are not involved in that conversation.
right,
The EPA manages that conversation. Yes.
right.
I think the point is.
They
that-
haven't come to an agreement yet.
Well, they won't until that plan is approved by the
Finalized.
division director at EPA, at a division, Region 1. And then they'll go back to them and say, okay, this is what we, and they've done similar projects in Plastow and all that. So
Yeah.
this is in line with what they're doing in their other places with similar issues.
And with similar people as well.
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
the
same
people who
group.
negotiate for the potentially responsible parties
Right.
often do it for different parties. So this is an experienced group that's working with each other. So this is not we're gonna cast something out and maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. This would not have come this far if these conversations had not been had. And this is part of the reason that, I know you guys were so eager to hear this. This is part of the reason that these conversations take time.
Yep.
Once it's finalized, those conversations between the EPA and the DOJ and the potentially responsible party will be finalized.
Okay.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
This has been going on for a long time, okay? The Cannon Group was the people that are responsible for bringing the contamination to the Tinkham site, okay? This is nothing new. The EPA has known this for years. They are the responsible parties, along with the people that, from the chemical companies that supplied that to Cannon to get rid of, okay? This has been going on way too long. So here we are, finally, making some progress here. But the conversation with the EPA and the Cannon Group, the responsible parties, should always be committed, okay? Should already be committed. We shouldn't have to be waiting, and these people waiting, for their water line to come in 2 to 3 years or whatever they're saying it would be. And by the way, we've been hearing about this Tinkham Superfund fight with 375 acres for a long time, since 1988, okay? And then we have this Appalachia down here that now is being built on. That the topsoil has been removed down, that, wait a minute, was that a brownfield site or not?
Was.
Okay, it was a brownfield site, which means that potentially the topsoil on that was contaminated soil that was stripped off, made in a big pile, and has been removed from the site.
That is correct.
Does anybody know where it went?
It went to the Waste Management Incineration Facility in Rochester as per the terms of the New Hampshire DES.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
For answering that question. But also, the apple orchard that we're talking about that's been stripped and is gonna be.
You're talking
built-
about Juniper Ridge, the future Juniper Ridge construction, the Juniper Ridge construction program, just to clarify. At 35 Gilcrest, is that what you're talking about right now?
The
I don't know who
townhouses.
Juniper Ridge is, but whatever.
35 Gilcrest, that property?
It's the condo
The
development.
townhouses
It's the high-end tie-in.
on the
townhouse.
right-hand
Yes,
side of the street.
Yes,
Yes, okay, 35 Gilcrest.
okay, but we have contamination on Boston and, what's the other one?
Albany.
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 The top one is Albany, the next pink line down on that side is
They're on
Boston.
that too.
You notice there's no direct connection there from what they're showing the Tinkham site is, but that is in the bedrock, and the reason those folks are contaminated, because it's pulled, their wells have pulled that over there.
You are correct,
Which has
yes.
gone underneath that old apple orchard.
That is part of it, yes.
Okay?
Yep,
So, here we are,
yep. So,
saying that site was not part of it, and the contamination was from pesticides.
Well,
Is
part of it.
that what we understand from the testing of the soil that was done?
Well, there's solvents in there, there's a
Yeah,
number
there's
of
more than
items
just
in the report.
pesticides.
yeah.
And there's PFAS also of concern.
Well, yeah, but the PFAS didn't come from the apple orchard.
So Ray, can I ask you, are you looking back at, are you talking about the soil of the apple orchards
No.
or the water at this point? The
No, I'm talking
water?
about the water.
So the water is, and actually Jeff, if I can ask you to hold this till Jeff brings this up later, when we talk about, because he has a couple other slides on there, he's gonna show those images later. So I'm gonna ask you to hold on the plume and the movement of the
Yep,
plume
okay.
till a little bit later, if you don't mind.
That's fine.
Awesome, thank you.
So, Ray, I understand your frustration. As longtime residents, this has been going on since 1977. All right, so yes, actually, I am surprised at how much progress is made and a whole bunch of digging in the ground in the last 2 years.
Yes,
Okay, so
absolutely.
that's the good, thank you.
So, great.
Celebrate our victories.
Yep. And so Aaron and Cheryl and Renee from DES will be here on the 10th to answer your questions. And I do have to ask you, if you are planning on attending the meeting on the 10th, please let me know. I would just have to post a quorum notice if there's more than 4 of you going to be there. And I think that's likely. So Tanya and I are working together to post the quorum notices for Utilities Committee and for the council to make sure that
That's
gonna say-
July 10th or August 10th?
July 10th.
Yeah, go ahead and post it.
And then the public hearing is the 29th. It will also be recorded,
Okay,
so it will be recorded for future viewing as well.
But that meeting on the 20th, most of you probably, I think, understand this, but that's the question and comment period. It's a official yeah, I know you know.
Yeah.
So it's important that we get every point across we want in there. You can do it in writing. You can certainly do it in the session as well, or you can do both. But in writing is really important, and then what Kristen's gonna do is put all of our comments together as the municipality and making sure those go in writing, because those will go into the official record, and they will respond to those on the record as well. So that's a key part of that. And again, those of you who've been through regulatory processes, you understand this.
Excellent point.
And that will come, and then that, and while Ray, I understand your frustration at why this hasn't happened yet, can't change the federal bureaucracy, but they are moving along on a very strict schedule now. So once that plan is wrapped up, we are now on a very strict time delineated schedule. So that public comment period is July 11th through August 12th. And then after that, they have a deadline to incorporate those comments. So now that it's been put out into the public, there's a very strict schedule to follow, and I think you're gonna see it move along at that speed. So, awesome. Any other quick questions on that before I move on to the other things? I got 3 more today, I told you. It's crazy today. CIP schedule, you asked about it last meeting. It has now been posted. It is on the website. It's on the CIP page of the the page and on the calendar. The next meeting is July 8th. That is a little bit of an outlier because it's a Tuesday meeting. After that, it's July 14th, a Monday, and it's every other Monday through July and August at 6:30 p.m. in this room. Exception, the first meeting will be in Sunnycrest because this room is taken.
Am I correct to assume that this committee could, technically at least, submit a CIP request, right? Proposal.
Yes? Absolutely.
Thank you.
And I think you're going to see, and I think that if you have ideas for that, please bring that forward sooner rather than later, because any of those requests and ideas, I don't want to speak to your ideas here.
No, I definitely, that's the process that I am used to. In fact, what I'm used to in the community is where anybody can submit a CIP item to request. And yours would normally come under the town manager, would submit them through our slot in that. And ours are at the end, actually. We've got one project at the end. So I definitely, if you have some ideas on that.
The next one is Water Subcommittee. I'll see y'all on Saturday. I'm going to be joining you at your meeting on
Next
Saturday.
Saturday.
On the 12th, yes, thank you, on the 12th. I'm going to be coming to you, and I'll send it out in advance with a draft of some criteria on how do we determine the prioritization of where to go next in this plan. This plan to build out the town, let's set up some criteria so we can figure out where's the next area so we can have those shelf-ready projects. I'm going to work with you guys to develop that criteria and then at the Water Subcommittee, and then we'll bring it back here in August, and then we're going to the council with it. So this is
So-
going to be a
So
collaborative.
basically the merge of the short term, long term, put timeframes on them.
We're not even to exact timeframes yet. We're at criteria to determine prioritization.
Okay.
So what criteria are we going to use to develop what's next?
Okay.
And obviously, what actually comes next is going to depend on a lot of things. It's going to depend on funding sources. It's going to depend on accessibility. But we want to have that criteria developed and supported by the council, because what we do is based on what the council wants to do,
And I
right?
think when we put together the concentration of areas most accessible, what's closest
Exactly.
to a water line, all that kind of good
Yep,
stuff.
and so I'll see you guys on that Saturday and we'll talk about that and then we'll be bringing it back to you in August for your approval before it goes to council.
So you're expecting us to pre-read and be prepared to comment on your criteria before we come to the meeting, correct?
I mean, we're talking bullet points, so if you can, awesome, but if not, we'll just talk about it there. But I do want, for those of you who, some of you prefer to digest it there, some of you prefer to read it in advance.
Yep.
I'll make sure I can accommodate both groups.
I will read it from my hotel room in Dublin and get your comments. I'm not gonna read it.
I'm sort of pushing her to get this done.
Yes,
Because I
we've-
really want to develop our water plan.
Yep.
And I need to get it in front of the council. I want them to approve the criteria, which is just one piece of the plan. But I want to get that at least out of the way, because that's that's an important piece, right? And it's obviously it'll be a controversial piece. So I want them to digest that and approve that. And I'm looking at August 18th, I think is when we got that on the agenda for. So I know it's kind of accelerated, but I'm pushing to get this done because there's the funding component piece, which we're already working on. And I want to get all those pieces together, but I want to get this one approved by them so I can get the rest of it in place, because time is of the essence, as you well know.
To our ex-project managers here, that's music to our ears.
Right, yeah, I know, you appreciate this.
Can we ask Ron, whether anything, we can't even say the name, but we know who we're talking about. Any progress has been made?
No, we cannot discuss it at this point, Ray.
Okay, so
Kristen's
this is
got one.
key, this is key to all of this, because
Yep.
we're hoping to get clean municipal water to those most impacted.
Ray, you know what I'm gonna say now, don't you? The negotiations are ongoing and we'll let you know as soon as we can.
As soon as we know something, I promise I'll tell you.
Ray's getting sick of me hearing that, saying that particular phrase, but we will. Just like with the EPA, as soon as we had something concrete, we got it out to you that day. Promise, the same thing will happen. All right, as soon as we know something that we can share, we will.
So I'll just tell you this much, I have a meeting on this tomorrow, and there's another meeting that'll be scheduled while I'm on vacation. I told them not to wait for me. So that'll probably be the 10th or the 11th with our attorneys to work out for the, I guess I would call it the smaller details, where we're here, now we're down to here. So to get that to a point where I can even get it in front of the council, where I'm still a ways away from that, but as soon as I get that, then I'll go to them and say, this is what it looks like. If it makes sense to you, then we'd be doing a non-public as early as the 21st of July. That'd be probably the earliest I can get it in front of them, assuming we can get the details to
But
where we need to
we can't even move forward on those that are most impacted, even the ones that are east of High Range Road. We've got nobody that we can put as a plan that we want to move forward, and we need this amount of money for.
And Ray, we absolutely understand that, definitely get that, and we will, right now, our focus in the short term is getting that High Range Road, which is what we're working on, because once we get that, we need that to get there anyway. So our focus right now, they're focusing on negotiations, we're focusing laser point on that High Range Road, and we'll get there, we will. So, stand by. You'll get me more information as soon as it exists, I promise. All right, and last but not least, all of your terms are up in December.
Yes.
Ray.
Nice try. No.
Oh.
We had this
We're not
conversation.
going away.
No. So what's going to happen in December? In September, you'll see a posting for all your positions, because we do have to post any position when the term expires. I'm bringing this up now so you guys can think about this for a while. And when they get posted, they'll be posted staggered. So there'll be 1, 2, and 3 year terms. So then we'll be in compliance with code and charter. Okay, so if you aren't sure how many years you want to do this, go ahead. There'll be it'll be 3, 2, and 2 for the regular members, and 1, 1, and 1 for alternate. So there'll be 3 3-year terms, 2 2-year terms, and 2 1-year terms available for regular members, and alternates there'll be a 3-year, a 2-year, and a 1-year. That's not to say that after that you can't reapply, absolutely. But if you're somebody who's like, all right, I got 2 years left in me, not 3, 2, there's a space for you. But again, so just letting you know that as you move up here, if you're appointed to less than 3 years, it does not mean anything. It just means that we're trying to come in compliance with the charter. And just like every other position, at the end of your term, you can apply for another term. So I just wanted to make you guys aware of that. So when you see that posting in September, you're not like, what the actual? It's all good. And
Can
if you
we-
have any questions about terms or anything like that, please reach out to me.
Can we anonymously nominate somebody so they don't know about it?
No. Hard no. Nice try, though. All right, any other questions for me? That was a long one.
Good news. Lots of good news. So that's the message to take away from that. Lots of good news.
Mr. Chairman, I got a quickie. I was gonna do this in a water subcommittee thing, but I have an update on Hannafin Farms that I wanna give to Chris. I can do it later, but we're on the subject right now. Is that okay? Go for it. All right. So, real quick, and remember, I did this, a lot of us get involved, from telephone calls. People call me about cable way too much, but sometimes water, sometimes PFAS, whatever. And most of the committee members are receptive, but I also did it because I try to maintain the project schedule sheet that Lynn posts as the quickie thing. So I was contacted by Mike Yoakum, who's the HMO manager at Hannafin Farms, which is an over 55 community. I think it's 48 Old Nashua Road in Londonderry. Information he gave me was, John, we have 42 homes. A grant was received for remediation to hook up the water system. I'm not sure what he meant by remediation. And I'm not sure if it's part of the Rolling Meadows project. And by the way, Erin's really quick to get all these answers back to me. And she goes, from our understanding, Hannafin Farms and Rolling Meadows projects are working in conjunction with one another. The Hannafin Farms project requires a Rolling Meadows water main to be installed on Old Nashua Road before they can connect. Both homeowner associations are utilizing the same engineering firm, Verdantis, for design and bidding of the projects, which is one of the things I informed him. I also found out they have an engineering manager, I think it's Pete, assigned to him, so I deferred all the rest of the questions to him. The next one, he said, I got a concern. Said that they could not have individual water meters, and I went, really? Actually, it wasn't the state. Each house cannot have an individual water meter because that would require Pennachuck to take ownership of the distribution system within the Hannafin Farms development. Pennachuck has specific design and construction standards that we require to developers to comply if they take over the system, if Pennachuck does. These standards can be found in the link, I got that. The Hannafin Farm system is an existing system, so we cannot ensure the system was installed to our specifications. Instead of individual meters, a master meter pit will be installed near the property. The distribution system with Hannafin Farms development will continue to be owned by Hannafin Farms. So the HMO guy, Mike, said, well, how am I gonna pay for this, or what's my rates? That's not what this committee does.
That is indeed anything, and that is the challenge with the HOAs with this, is
That-
that anything with an HOA, it's private,
Right.
and we can work with them up to the HOA, but beyond that, it's the HOA's
That's-
responsibility.
That's the answer I gave him. Very good.
Yeah.
I found it interesting, and it was and Aaron kind of teased me because the next day, the water system, the Woodmont group, Gordon Holmes group, I'm sorry, went down. And that's because when they were southern New Hampshire, they did take over the existing water system, shut down the wells. And again, on Gordon Drive, another break. And that's when they decided in the policy about 10 years ago, we're not taking any more water systems. So that was that. Rate changes in hookups. I asked Pete to provide answers to that, and he mentioned the vault. And the vault he's referencing is the master meter pit that they'll be using the well system for irrigation instead of purchasing Pennachuck water. So I'll just put on our project sheet, start date, end date, whatever, and then we'll add to our map what's being hooked up.
Nice.
Is that okay?
Sounds lovely for that, yep. And we are aware that Hannafin Farms and Rolling Meadows are being bid together.
Yes.
They are being run together by Verdantis, and Verdantis, that project is an integral part of the High Range Water Main Road connection.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought.
And Pennachuck is working closely with Verdantis as well. I can
Yeah, she said it's
confirm that.
working out pretty good. It's gonna move a little quicker than they had hoped. So,
Yep.
good.
The water main down Old Nashua in particular, from 102, yes.
Thank you for that, Lynn.
Good.
Kirsten, do you know anything about the plan to extend three-phase power down High Range Road? Where does it start? Where will it end? Is it real or not?
Three-phase power,
Yeah,
I'm unfamiliar with that.
okay.
Can look into it for you,
Would you?
absolutely.
That's what makes my big milling machine in my shop run, the three-phase.
And like AC, DC, and BC, right?
No, don't touch,
Okay.
don't touch, and don't touch.
I like John's answer. All right, awesome. So yeah, I'll look into that for you, Mike.
Thanks.
Okay, moving on. Master plan, update status. Martha, anything to report on the master plan?
Well, we did have a meeting At that meeting, the plan for the housing portion of the master plan that we've been working on has been somewhat finalized, but some of the committee members, including myself, didn't get it until that day, and we hadn't had time to really read through it. So we are going to read through it. We're also going to get some extra minutes because there was a small group that was formed to go over some comments that had been made at the prior meeting. So we're hoping to get that finalized so we can take the next step on that chapter. I would imagine that's gonna happen within the next month. The other thing that we spoke about in that chapter was that we wanted to make sure that all of the data that was referenced in that chapter reference where the data came from and the dates on which that data was formulated, so we could base it on that, because there was a little bit of confusion about a population, what would I call it? Projection that some of the members had said that that was not correct for Londonderry, and that the chart, they wanted to know more about the data that, how the chart was formulated. So that's where we were at with the master plan.
And that chapter is the sort of lead chapter, right? That's the one
Correct.
that's the farthest along.
That's correct. And then we have a survey that has been also formulated that is going to be going into the next chapter that we're going to be dealing with, which I believe is, do you know? Transportation.
Transportation, that's correct. Good. Okay, moving on, subcommittee discussions. We'll start with energy. The Energy Subcommittee had a meeting today at 6 o'clock. Primary topics we're talking about right now are the aggregation plan and the aggregation, community choice aggregation program. Eversource has, I don't know if they've submitted to the PUC, if that's the correct term, what their next rate structure is looking like. They came in with a rate of 11.2 cents per kilowatt hour. And I did forward that rate on to our current aggregation partner, and they're off looking at the competitive pricing situation right now to see what they can come in with that. I think the seat of the pants says it's gonna be a challenge again to move forward with this program, but we'll see where that all ends up. But depending what they come back with, and I expect really to have rates, or what their rates are gonna be, I expect to have that within the next week. And then that kind of dictate what our next steps are, where we go with that.
Other components, rates of that, other than the 11.2 cents per kilowatt, are there any other increases in their rates?
So from an Eversource perspective,
Yeah.
there are. Right, the aggregation program deals specifically with the supply side.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
And the supply, we're guesstimating, is roughly 35% of the bill.
Ballpark.
So it's not insignificant, it's not a huge part of the bill. So the other part of
Yeah.
the bill
Yeah,
would include your infrastructure costs and your customer costs.
The way I look at it is this, though. Eversource, the bigger company, is looking at all these other aggregate companies that want to purchase power and then sell it to a city or town. And that is somewhat competition for them, okay? And they want to continue to make their money at the same rate they've been making in the past or more, which, that's business for you. We understand that. But I wonder how that's gonna work out with these aggregation companies, because they're gonna kind of be keeping their rate at a point where, how's an aggregation company gonna beat it?
Well, I would hope from a consumer standpoint that the rates are very competitive, because that's the way we all save the most money.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
That would be my desire anyway, to be that way. So more to come, just bits and pieces as we roll out. I think in August, we'll have a really good understanding of where we want, or where we expect the program to be for the rest of the year. Solar zoning ordinance, the solar zoning ordinance got approved through the planning board. It's going in front of the town council for the first reading, I believe. They typically waive the first reading, so we're probably looking at them discussing it and approving it, hopefully approving it sometime, first meeting in August?
I think it's the first meeting in August we have it.
So it's on the agenda, I think, at this point in time,
Yep.
so it's coming up. So I did send the final draft, as far as I'm concerned, out to everybody. Certainly feel free to let me know the good, the bad, and the ugly, but it's what's been approved through the planning board, and I think that was a pretty big step. We had some spirited discussion at the planning board level on some of the items contained in the ordinance. Mike, I know you've been talking with the powers to be about the EECBG block grant, energy efficiency.
Yes, I once again feel like a little Danny Downer. I got in touch with the project officer at the New Hampshire Department of Energy to enlist their help in finding what the status of the program was. And it was not particularly reassuring. The reply was, "I'll send this on to the federal project officers." In other words, they didn't know any more than we did.
Yeah.
And so, and whether we hear from them, maybe the state asking instead of little old me asking will make a little difference, but I don't think there's anybody there to answer the phone, to be perfectly honest.
That's,
By the way, I did
Yeah.
the thorough search of the Federal Department of Energy website, and you cannot find that anywhere in anything after January 20th, so.
And specifically, the grant is it for a study or?
Strategic planning.
Huh?
For strategic planning for our energy supplies, energy and efficiency program.
Okay, and I think we were talking to Eversource perhaps of them doing something in that regard?
Different topic that I'm sure Paul will cover in just a second. I did want to ask Sean, is the same thing happened at Lebanon?
Yeah, I got a big solar grant on a fire station that where you get the same response as well. You can submit for reimbursement, but I can't guarantee we're gonna be able to pay you and all of that, same situation. We're relying upon the New Hampshire Saves program, which I'm sure is what you're gonna talk about here.
and with that introduction, any news on the energy audit from Eversource?
Yeah, this is as of yesterday, and talking with, contacting Director Wally. GDS Associates Engineering Consultant, working with Eversource, came in to look at town facilities. They had finished their review mid-April, and the director has now been notified. He's received 4 notifications that the reports are just about complete. So included in the report should be, do they qualify for any kind of, energy efficiency savings? 2, paybacks and the whole calculation behind what the initiatives will be, and more importantly, what the town will have to pay in if they want to go forward with those initiatives. So they're basically waiting to hear.
Okay.
But the good news is there's been some movement, so it's good.
Any questions for the Energy Committee, Subcommittee? Moving on to water. Jeff?
Water. We had a great month with water, thanks to Kirsten, doing some journeyman work. These are the things, like we talked before, we have things broken down into the, not the urgency, but how soon they're gonna be happening. The first one is always, things that are sort of out of our hands and in the hands of town leadership, and we're just keeping our eyes on them, just so we're aware, but we're not pushing them forward. That makes sense? Tinkham Superfund site, Kirsten gave us a great brief on that. There's a link there for the full proposed plan. This is language directly from the EPA report. A little bit of shortening it up, but you know, extending water lines, monitoring what happens, and then checking every 5 years. These are the meetings that Kirsten mentioned. We've seen this before. These are the maps that Kirsten showed. In the black is where the problems are. On the right is the fix, the theoretical fix. Ray, you're going to be interested, and we've seen this before, so I'm going quick. This is the contamination blooms. This is directly off the EPA proposed plan. On the left is the PFOA, and on the right is the dioxane max. That's the maximum concentrations for those measurements. And I'm not sure exactly where. Not sure exactly where that is. Where's the Home Depot on that, Lynn?
So Home Depot would be up here.
Up here. Okay.
Well, there are two different scales.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is
Gilcrest.
Gilcrest right up here, so
Okay.
I think this is 102 right here.
Okay.
We should stop putting pin drops on, like Home Depot.
An
Forty-one,
easy way to tell
41.
guys is if you look at that where the houses are clustered really close together, that's the Nevins.
Okay.
And so
Oh.
that's a really good way to landmark these maps, if you look at the outlines of the houses clustered close together.
So it's kind of interesting.
And
You
these
can
are on the website.
Yeah, it's on the website.
This
and you
is
can
on the
download.
website, yeah.
This is on the website. You can download. The,
I have a copy.
Yeah. So it's
Actually, Jeff, I'm just gonna jump off real quick and show you.
Yeah,
So
please.
there is a page, if you go to your Utilities Committee and click on Water in Londonderry, you notice there's now, this is
Yeah.
all the
Oh.
PFAS stuff, but there's a page on the Tinkham Garage.
Nice.
And as we engage on other projects, they will be added to this. So you
Perfect.
can see there's a summary, the EPA one, documents, and the related links right there.
this is great, Kirsten. Thank you very
So this
much.
is on there, and we're gonna get one, like I said, there'll be ones for the High Range Road Water Main, there'll be one, as we engage in each project, they'll go up here, and this is where we're gonna centralize all our communication.
This is
So when they
fab-
get back
well
to
done.
us.
Well done.
Yep, great.
So good information, and looks like we're getting some good activity on this. Hopefully, we'll have some good fixes in the in the not too distant future. These are the options. You were asking about this, Joy, I believe. I think it was Joy, asking about the options, and this is where the 6.8 million comes in. So we're getting what looks like the best option. We're getting water line extension instead of piecemeal, which is great. This is the High Range Road water line extension. Kirsten already talked about this. This is the current timeline as of the report that you sent out about a week and a half ago. It sounds like we didn't get shovels in the ground yet, but it's any day now.
Yeah, it is any day now. They made the decision with Penachuk to put shovels on the ground when they can, like I said,
Yeah.
devote 2 full crews to it from the get-go and run with it.
Yeah, so like Kirsten said, this is, summarizing what she said, any day now. I think if I recall, Sean, congratulations, you were here for 1 day and you got the Tinkham thing going, so.
I had nothing to do with it.
Good work in your first week. The High Range Road is moving forward. So those are the things that the town is doing that we're just observing and watching. The short term, this is what the utility committee is working on. Or, I'm sorry, the water committee. We had our water portion of the master plan. We finished it about a month and a half ago. Everybody's looking at it. The water committee is providing edits, and they'll get back to us. We're kind of slow on our edits, but that's okay. We're several months ahead of the.
We're way ahead of the
We're
timeline.
way ahead of the curve on the water master plan, so this is something that we need to get done expeditiously, but it's not due for several months, but I'd like to get it done and in Lynn's hands so we can put it in Kirsten's hands.
I was going to say, do you want your drafts of, even before the master plan, do you want your drafts, because you have the energy master plan draft and the water one, do you want those on your page as well? Or do you want to wait until they're incorporated in the master plan?
I'd rather wait until the subcommittees have weighed in.
Perfect, awesome.
So we have, they've all been, or I shouldn't say they've all, we have a combined energy, water, and sewer and solid waste plan now.
And they all,
They're all roughly-
Look alike. Yeah, they
they're all-
rhyme.
They're all formatted the same, so
Yeah.
they actually look like they
They
go
rhyme.
together.
it looks like I took Lynn's energy plan and filled in the water stuff.
Your committee after my own heart, Frank.
Yes. So
You guys gotta catch up over there, okay?
So this is going really well. We're done way ahead of time, but we need to like put a bow on it and get it off our plate. State Water Commission, Ray and Ron, you guys are, this was from last month, you guys are both on that commission. Is there anything critical that's happened in the last month that we need to know
No,
about?
nothing is critical happening. I have an update soon to give during roundtable.
Okay,
But Ray is still in a holding pattern.
okay,
I'm still trying to push Ray to, all I need is a signature for Ray.
okay.
Show
So-
me where to sign.
No, not from you.
When we get that, I'm gonna have you put, give me bullet points for each water committee meeting, if that's okay.
Mhm.
All right, so we got our guy Ray gonna be in the State Water Commission, which is wonderful. These are intermediate concerns, things that need to happen in an expeditious manner, but not today. John, I'm sorry,
Intermediate or immediate?
intermediate.
Said immediate.
Little typo, that's all right. We got it.
This is the,
It's immediate.
this is the French spelling of intermediate.
Okay.
So John is working on the project plan. This came up when he was talking about the HOA earlier. You know, Pennachuck is slow to get this data for John. When we first started working on it, he had this done in a week.
Yeah,
And we had the first draft done, and then Pennachuck is not giving us the updates.
they're busy.
Yeah, they're super busy, but you know, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I can't imagine that they don't have this on some sort of ERP, but you know, this is not their priority. I think this is going to be a great report when we have updated information from our supplier. But that's on the list, and I look forward to having it. Community outreach. This is the project we've been talking about. We started this off. We did a small video, maybe half an hour, on the High Range Road build out with Mr. Malaguti and myself and Ray and John. I think it went well. We ended up getting the approval.
The warrant passed.
The warrant passed. And it was really interesting, and I thought it was a good project for us. It was kind of fun, and it was a good project, and it's sort of a good little project. You can do it, and you're finished, and it's done, and you can just put a bow on it. We've been looking at other topics to look at. These are all the topics that people said, hey, this would be interesting. I've reached out to 2 people on the topics collected list, and you know, my response is like, yeah, that's really great. I'm really busy right now, but we want to look at it, and we'll talk soon. So we're gonna get to it. It's happening, but I don't think we're gonna get the one a month and one from everybody. But I still think it's really great. And I was looking at the goals, you know, main goals are just to get utility committee information out. It's a good project, but I think long-term goals, if we're able to do this and we could collect sort of brain trust is not the correct word, but if we could identify people in the town of Londonderry that are really smart about this, and then have that list available for the town managers, like Ann Fenn spent 42 years at the EPA. There's got to be people like that around the town of Londonderry, where if you have a very specific technical question, you could say, oh yeah, you know, Bob over there, he knows all about that, and he spent 50 years on this space. So, and that just came to me as I was working on this brief. But I think it'd be interesting if we could find people in Londonderry, you know, what we know in Londonderry, and just find people that are really smart about a topic, and then just sort of get a report and then make them available to the town as a resource, maybe. But again, it's an idea. Long term, everybody's favorite project is I'm calling it the Last Mile Build Out. Martha and I had, I thought, a phenomenal meeting with Sean and the finance team. Very productive. Discussed finance, discussed sequencing. Sean was really pleased how engaged you were that you came to the meeting, and immediately picked up on what we were doing and took it farther than we'd taken it. And I'm really pleased to see the engagement from you guys coming. It's like, yeah, we want to get this done. We're going to get the sequencing parameters. And I liked I'm really pleased that we're moving forward on sort of the execution of the idea, because we've been sort of circling an idea. But now that we have the input at the town level, we can start putting pen to paper and getting a project plan and getting, you know, a a sequence of what we're gonna do and start figuring out how we're gonna put shovels in the ground. I thought it was great. I'm really glad to have you around, Sean. It's really excited. You know, and part of
a left-handed compliment?
I'm trying to be complimentary. It took us like 6 months to get the first draft from Pennachuck, and it was just slowly dragging along, and then things are started to slowly move, and it just feels like in the last 8 weeks, things are started really moving fast, and then since we had that meeting, it feels like things are really moving faster, so, and again, I have a bias towards action, and the things that are moving quicker makes me happy, so very, very excited. I think it's important, we have a lot of things that we're talking about, but once we start getting the project plan and, you know, these 50 different to-dos organized and get things in the SharePoint like you talked about, I think that'll make this for a more real project for the town council, for the legislative body, and for everyone in this room. And we'll start getting shovel-ready projects laid out so we can get the grants written and we can start, you know, moving forward on this.
Yeah,
So-
SharePoint will be a game changer for us, because we can all operate the same sandbox, look at the same documents and work together on that. That's gonna be an important component that's built in.
Yeah, I use it on almost all my clients.
Right.
I have trouble working without it.
Right.
So,
As long as you remember to turn on editing. Where's the comments? Turn on editing.
so very, very happy with this. It's a 20-year project. It's gonna cost, we think, $250 million or more. It's a lot of money over a long period of time to get it done in a correct manner. But, you know, a long trip starts with a single step or
Yeah, we
whatever.
gotta start somewhere.
So we're getting started, we're moving forward, and I'm very excited. All right, long-term, we just did that, community out, oh, I'm going the wrong way. Long-term, last mile build-out, and that's it.
Awesome. Any questions for Jeff for the water subcommittee? Cool. John, solid waste, sewer?
Geez, following up on Jeff, I feel the need to say that it's really good to have you here, Sean. Sewer and solid waste met on Saturday, and frankly, our primary discussion topic was old home days, and we plan to introduce and educate the town on some options for composting and what's out there and available. So we will have a representative from a service that will come and pick up compost from some of our communities where people can't do their own. We have a number of, I think I heard the other night, 55-plus communities in our town, and we have a number of apartments and condo complexes, and we're hoping that some folks might consider doing composting, since it's estimated 25% of what goes into our landfills is food waste. And so it'll be interesting. But we'll also offer the option and some education and some ideas on do-it-yourself for the folks that have some land where they can do their own composting. So it'll be kind of an educational day. So we kind of filled in the blanks on how that whole program would work. Beyond that, we talked a little bit about the other side of the equation for our group. It's sewer and solid waste. So, and I think where we ended up was the most educated person in our group on the sewer system in Londonderry is Mr. 2 Gary Drive. So
3 Gary Drive.
Right, sorry, wrong side of the street, but that's nothing new for you. And so what we've decided to do at the next meeting is devote about a half an hour of that meeting to let Ray educate us a little bit on what he needs as the existing sewer system. We've challenged him to come back with some mapping for us on the existing sewer system, some of the new projects going in town, and how the two link up, so that we can, in an educated fashion, have a discussion with our environmental engineer in town about where he thinks things are at, and we can talk as an educated group. So beyond that, a couple of quick hitters. We talked about furthering our involvement with some of the youth in Londonderry, and Joy will sort of lead the effort there. And I believe you had a conversation with somebody from the Green Council over at the high school. and we hope to enlist, enroll, or perhaps Shanghai a couple of folks and bring them into our group in the fall, because all good things with solid waste start with the young. Other than that, I think that was the primary coverage of our meeting this past Saturday.
Excellent. Any questions for John?
John, would it be possible to include any recycling knowledge in the Old Home Day event, or is it, maybe you have some other way to do it? But, you know, when I go out for my walks during the day, and it's recycling day, I'm just appalled by the things that are sticking out of the recycling bins. You know, they're clearly not recyclable, or dirty, or greasy, the cardboard's never taken apart, it's just, and if we could do something, even if it's just a handout that day that you give people.
We could. One of the things I had discussed at a previous committee that dealt with solid waste, and Linda's gonna slap me for bringing this up again, but it's
Yep.
one of my favorite topics, was the recycling police squad, okay? Basically, summer interns, kids we'd hire from the high school, maybe Green Council people, and have them just do what you did, walk down the street and put friendly persuasion notes on top of people's recycle bins, okay? Probably bright red that the neighbors could see, okay?
How about fluorescent orange that says, "This trash will not be picked up"?
And the kids have little red armbands, right, with, yeah.
Yeah,
Wait a second.
yeah, we're gonna go around checking everybody's trash.
But beyond that, I think on the serious side, we could do something at Old Home Days on what should and shouldn't go out. There's a pretty good flyer
Yeah,
that the DPW has that we could co-opt, and I'll put that in our Old Home Days plan.
Yeah, and the engineering department at the town has a lot of flyers right there.
Yep.
Which, you know, we talked about doing some mailings, but I don't know if we want to do that, but like at Old Home Day, if we had some of those to hand out, absolutely.
I know exactly what you're saying, Mike. I've walked down the street, I've seen the same thing, and it's even worse when they have so much of the wrong stuff in their recycling bin that it's popping out the top
yeah.
and everybody can see it.
That's how I know.
Okay.
Right, the couch is sticking out, yeah. John, I got a question for, I think a couple of you are familiar with this. And I asked this before. I know the bid is coming up again to renew the whole the whole trash pickup. And I learned from you guys that there are certain things that you can no longer recycle, like the black foam stuff, cartons with wax on them and all that kind of stuff. When we do that negotiation stuff, I was down at, what's the place? It's next to the, it's in downtown Boston, next to the Hood plant. They have the sorting system there. How much it would cost for us to do that? You know, shredded paper. I mean, it's really, I don't like that shredded paper, but is there a way we could set up a recycling for that? Just when the
Cost.
bid process comes up.
Cost for us, cost for the town to do that,
Right, what it would cost the town.
to do it ourselves?
Some towns have gone the next step and banned the sale of those type of plastics and
okay.
cartons and stuff like that, so it does not get into the system. That's a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
We can, I guess, discuss that as a warrant article or whatever. But I found out that there are plants that do process by hand, and how much would that cost? Because that stuff doesn't really decompose, so, okay, that's all. Just a thought. Just to find out how much it is.
And with that segue, is there anything, cable and internet that you wanna add?
Believe it or not, I've been real busy, but nothing to report. I am trying to catch up to the industry.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so with that, we're moving on to the roundtable. So Sean, we have a roundtable at the end of every meeting. Everybody gets a chance to say what's on their mind in case they haven't had a chance earlier. Start with Joy.
I was just going to say to Jeff, I think I'm one of those people who he's reached out to. I think you're right, we need to get that going, and so I will commit to having something by August. Kind of like outlined, how's that? Is that okay? And
We
then
had a
can-
friend that was interested in composting as well, so if we could get a team of 3 working on composting, that we might be able to share the burden a little bit.
All right, we
and
could
get-
do it. We could do it.
Joy, have you had conversation with the school? And if so,
So
what-
no, so when I reached out, it was towards the end of school, and we left it at, we're gonna talk right at the beginning of school, and then we'll come in and, just meet with the Green Council and see what they, what role they like to play in the town.
Thank you.
Paul?
Sean, I agree 200% on your grant writer strategy. Welcome to our committee. I hope you feel the love.
I'm out of love. Next.
I have a lot of love. I'm delighted that you're here. I think that it's gonna change our town a lot, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, let's make Londonderry more like Lebanon.
Be careful about saying that.
Came from my
I'll
town.
take my chances.
Lebanon, New Hampshire.
Completely different town.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, right.
no comment.
Oh, really?
Good.
Okay, maybe a little off topic, but traffic, of real concern. And just an instance, I was going to Staples. I'm driving on 102 to go down, take a left to go to Staples. Here comes 4 young boys, which I think had electric bicycles, I'm not sure. Anyway, they were pedaling, but they looked like electric bicycles. They're cutting across 6 lanes of traffic, heavy traffic, to go to McDonald's. And so here we are, 102, a state road going through Londonderry with a lot of impact, and you cannot walk across that road without getting killed. I don't know how those 4 boys got across, and it was heavy traffic. They were like, I don't think there's even a button you can push if you want to walk across.
No, there
There are no crosswalks, nothing. And we have a really serious issue with traffic, which I know Sean is
Painfully
going to be fully involved with.
Yep,
And-
and under
and
the
s-
purview of another committee,
Right.
town
Right.
committee.
Not this committee.
Not
Another
Stay tuned on
under
that one,
us,
Ray.
Not under us.
No,
Ron?
All right, yes, I have a PFAS rebate information for you guys. You guys had asked me a couple times for some information. So $13.13 million was provided to homeowners in rebates in 2024. So far in 2025, they have distributed approximately $1.28 million. The fund currently has $7 million in it.
Wow.
So if anybody out there is looking for a rebate program, it is still active.
That rebate. Is there a website we can go to?
Yeah, DS, New Hampshire DS.
Got it, okay.
Yep.
Well, specifically, what is the rebate for?
So you get $5,000
Oh,
if you
okay, for
install a
you to-
PFAS, like a POET system,
For a power system.
and you
Okay.
get $10,000 if you hook up to a water line.
That was a general fund appropriation a few years
Yep,
back.
yep, that was a bill that I helped get through the Senate and the House. Not to, I just want to know, it was one of the things that I was very passionate about, so, but yes, there's still $7 million remaining in the account, so anybody that asks about it, it's still viable, still active, and if I'm still there, it'll be remaining active for a long period of time, so.
Just a question
Yeah,
on that,
go ahead.
Ron, if I could. I had a friend, who took advantage of the $5,000.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're looking at the potential a year or so down the road of a water line coming down their street. And it's gonna cost them, they would like to hook into that water line. But in their conversations with DES, they were told that if they took advantage of the 5,000, they can't get the 10. And I think that's fair, okay? But maybe they should be able to get the extra 5 that, and is that something that you would consider bringing to?
Absolutely, I could bring a bill forward
Yeah,
that would do that.
Just to,
Yeah, currently, right now, it's not allowed.
yeah, and I understand
Yeah.
it, you don't wanna give anybody more than 10, but if somebody, maybe for the sake of their family, decide to put in a POET system or something of
Get the
that sort,
5,000
spend
yeah.
5, and somebody that didn't do that, is getting 10, maybe we should make an allowance.
That can be put
particularly
in
where
the
money
week,
has slowed down in terms of
the week after
distribution.
Labor Day, bills open up, so put that in, absolutely.
I think they may be receptive to that,
Mm-hmm.
to the reduced. Didn't Amy say something?
And if you wanna put my name on top of the bill, and, you know, I'm perfectly
The
fine
John
with that.
Mayen.
Careful, John, on top of the bill means you may get it in the mail.
Unless you think that would inhibit its passage.
As long as you come testify for it, don't forget, a lot of these bills need testimony.
You know
So-
what, if you put my name on it, I'll be there. Hey, I just wanted, I mentioned this in the Energy Committee, and I'm gonna hide this so that I'm not exposing any names here, but I've been besieged recently by supply-side offers from folks, and I don't know if any of you guys, you've got one, Martha, okay? It's a little deceptive, because it's a lot deceptive, okay? In that it says that this rate that this particular company is promising is right around 7 cents per kilowatt hour, and that sounds like a heck of a great deal. But if you happen to go on to the DES website and look up all these companies, this deal is good until the end of August. And their objective is to get you to sign on the dotted line, and then they'll switch you over to the higher rate, which at the end of August. And as we've kind of discussed in some of these meetings, once people sign on with something, they don't tend to jump around and change. And that's what's going on with some of these, and I've had it from more than one company.
Is that legal, Ron?
Sure it
It's
is.
something, right now I believe it is, so it's something that we could also look at,
It's not ethical, but
yes,
it's legal.
yes.
The disclosure is there, just not obvious.
Just hiding it.
Well, there's no date anywhere on this postcard.
But you have to go to the website. and
The
do-
rate is circled in red, but there's no date on the postcard, so it is about as close to a bait and switch as I can get and still be legal.
Great. Anything else?
That's it for me.
Kirsten?
All set, Mr. Chair.
John?
That's it.
Awesome. Okay, so we finish up our meetings with another round of public comments, so we can jump past that real fast. Our next meeting is Tuesday, August 5th. Don't have anything specific for the agenda yet, so if there's any ideas anybody has, send them my way and we'll get them on the agenda. And with that, any other business we want to conduct?
Oh, Ray's got a question. In regards to public comment. We have had, I think, one or maybe two people here over the period of time, but rarely do we have anybody here for public comment. And I spoke to a gentleman today, a friend of mine. Actually, I worked with this gentleman for a number of years as a diesel mechanic. His son lives on Boston Road, Ave. I asked him if he had received anything from the EPA. He said no. Kirsten, has the EPA or the town sent out to these folks that are impacted?
They were mailed out on Thursday.
It's, the mail's late, apparently. But, my point is, I think it's really important, particularly these people that are impacted, that we have a meeting, it's a public meeting, and, we make sure that they're informed that they, have a opportunity to speak their mind. And, when I was talking to this gentleman, one of his concerns is that he has a well. There's a water line that goes down Boston Ave that was put down there previously because some of those wells were contaminated. He did not choose to hook in. The water line goes down, which he could choose to hook in, I guess, now. But one of his concerns was, and it's a concern of other people, is if I have a well, am I gonna be told I cannot use my well? And I've seen something where, in some cases, they're suggesting that if you have a well, then it should be capped because it could be drawing contaminants, for instance, off the Tinkham site to that area. And people want to be able to use, for instance, they want to wash their car, or they want to water their lawn or their plants and so forth. And so people are concerned about that.
So do we want to answer that, or do we let the EPA answer that? And I think we have a,
I think that's an excellent question to bring to the public session. I think I would defer to Cheryl and Aaron as the experts
yeah,
on
I'd
that.
hate to give you an answer, Ray, and have it not be the right
Yeah,
answer.
yeah. I'm just,
Yep.
telling you what some people's concerns are.
Yep, absolutely.
Good question.
Good question, Ray. Maybe a little research. I was talking to a real estate agent. Now when you buy a house, one of the tests is for water. And if you have contaminants, then you have to put a POET system in. About the engineering side of that, yes, it does draw from the aquifer, which may be drawing in contaminants. Yes, if you decide to wash your car and irrigate your garden, you are not doing yourself a favor.
Right.
So,
Right, I'll do some research on it.
yeah, and be careful when you talk about the water testing. I think, as far as I know, right now, they still test for E. coli, and that's really about it. When you do a real estate
Oh,
transfer.
the real estate one? Oh, I thought they did all of them.
I don't think it's a requirement yet. It's probably a good practice, but it's not a requirement yet.
Interesting. It's okay.
So, with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to
Martha,
adjourn.
do I have a second?
Cheerfully.
Second. All in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you all. I appreciate everybody's attendance. Sean, welcome.